Hey guys, we've got news for Global for June 2nd. I think it's June 2nd, it's coming out. A collaboration that is coming a little bit out of the expected schedule. And this week, joining me to discuss it is Jasiwel. So you can say hello, Jassy.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Pretty good. So I've known you and Brave actually for quite a while on both JP and Global. So it's actually good that I've got a JP player here to talk about this because, this was a collaboration that JP got as well.
Yeah, it was a very interesting collab we got on JP because this was totally an unknown quantity at this point. Especially because we were just getting into a new level of power creep, and Dai himself is really really interesting.
With Knights of Grand Shadow come out pretty recently. He had raised the bar, and then these came out. I think right afterwards, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, these especially because Dai was our first really good lightning DPS we'd had in a while.
So I have not even looked at this news deeply myself, so I don't know the kind of pulls it are. So let's see. So we got the premium step up. It looks like, what is that, 13.5 per lap. You're getting 4 tickets per lap, and you need 10. So 26, something like 32K for a pity. Around that.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, so that's actually not too bad considering we just had a Kaito for 42 to 45K for a pity. I forget how much exactly, but it was expensive. That of course came with the armory ticket. This doesn't have anything like that. But still, for the unit itself, if that's all you care about is the units, that's actually a much better deal, is 32-ish K. Pretty good.
Does it say we get to choose which one, though, if we go the full step, or is it a random lottery?
Well, the way these tickets work is you get 10, and then in the shop, you choose the one to get. Yeah, so
okay, good.
Yeah, so if you went just for the 36K or 32K or whatever, yeah, you would pick one of them. I'm not seeing a lap limit, meaning you could get all of them for pity if you wanted to go 100K for all 3 of them, guaranteed. Hopefully, if you did that, you'd pull quite a few along the way, but that's not guaranteed.
Yeah, that would be rather generous, don't you think?
Yeah. So the first of the 3 units is, and this by the way on JP was a 2-part collaboration. There were 6 units in total, 3 the first week, 3 the second week. I would assume we're getting part 2 next week. That's not confirmed. But the first week comes with just Dai, Pop, and Mam. Hopefully I'm saying their names right. So for these units on JP, I do know the basics of their kit, but I didn't pull for any of this. I didn't get any of them in the free pulls. So I have very limited knowledge. As far as Dai goes, I know he has a 400x lightning locked LB, and it's 450x versus demons. Now that's with his modifier boost that will not stack with Typhus's because they both have the short duration. So it's 450 versus demons with boost and 400 versus everything else. Beyond that, I know basically nothing about him. So fill me in, Jassy. What is Dai about?
Yeah, so Dai is basically this physical lightning damage dealer. He's not really, I don't know if I'd say he's like Cog, but he can pump out some damage. And when we get those next batch of units, I guess part 2 of this collab, it all becomes a bit more clear as to who really comes out on top as the huge DPS. And it's usually going to be Dai, and then Baron is the other big one that we have next week, and they're both lightning based DPS. So in the coming months, we'll have water and stuff like that, but with Titus and I guess Roos. But right now we got Dai, and Dai, there's a lot of content coming out where lightning DPS that can do a ton of damage. Dai is kind of the Cog version of that.
And the final boss of his Vision World, which we're likely to get, because in JP it came with part 2, the final boss was weak to only lightning and nothing else. It was just lightning. So he was obviously the MVP for that. You don't need him for that because, I perfect scored it without him, but he definitely makes it easier.
Yeah, he and Baron make that so much more doable.
So jump over to his card real quick. So this is Dai's card. So it's pretty nice. It's 120 base attack and magic. And then the flat stats are only Dragon Quest units, but so it's a decent card on everyone. If you've been pulling a ton of the global exclusive cards recently, like the banner specific cards or Kaito's card, for example, they might be overall more useful, but this one is still pretty good. Obviously for Dragon Quest units themselves, it's exceptional. Pretty good card, and I think this is the best card for the whole batch, right? Like all 6 of them want Dai's card. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. Like there might be like there's 2 like I think King Croc, and then I forget the other one's name because it's a little odd, but they're tanks, so like they may not actually care about this card.
Yeah.
But Croc is free, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. He is. He's actually in the news, so we're gonna get to him in a moment.
Oh, great. Good. Yeah, Croc's a pretty good free tank, and then you have another one in the second batch that's 100% cover chance, which is really good. But yeah, as far as like the DPS in these banners, they want this card, and this card's really good if you have like that Knights of Grand Shelt card, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to share it, like. So you're like, okay, what's a good one for like Dai or Baron? And this card is easily, that substitute.
Yeah, and something I will point out as well, and it's really relevant, especially like in the last Clash of Wills, is while this card is decent for DPS, it also has 1500 base HP, which is then scaled by percent HP. So there's something like the current Clash of Wills that just really hits your team hard for those cruel Fey attacks. That extra HP could be really nice on a DPS unit. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm staring right at it. I'm like, oh my god, I totally forgot.
pretty
so good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, the tanks will like that too. But we get another vision card. The tanks, like all tanks, will absolutely love.
Oh yeah, this card right here. We can get to that in just a sec. That card is I love that card.
It's so good.
As far as the rest of his stuff, his STMR is a 2-handed sword with attack and magic, and some killers on it versus what do we have here? Demons, stone, and dragons, and flat stats for only Dragon Quest units. Actually, only Dai himself, just himself. Overall, I would say this card is a little bit weaker than Frievia's STMR if you happen to have got that. It is higher attack power, but it doesn't have LB damage on it. So they're both pretty side grades to each other. They're both really good. For me personally, I've already got a bunch of Frievia STMRs. I kind of went crazy moogling her when I pulled for her. So I'm a little overloaded on 2-handed swords at the moment. But it is pretty good.
Yeah. No, I think people need to get used to a lot of 2-handed swords coming out because especially the hybrid mix ones. But I will say that the fact that it comes out with like it's 2-handed and it has killers, that's always going to be good. There's always going to be someone that might be like, oh, I could use that.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good. And then the TMR is kind of like whatever. It's got some flat stats for Dai himself, and then it gives 2-handed true double hand if you're using a sword or a dagger. I think these qualifies for 75%. It's a little weird number. Actually, all the Dragon Quest have these weird numbers in their TMRs. It's like I wish Global would have adjusted it to be 100%, so it's just less weird. But I guess if you're using 2 of these, that's 150. That's a sort of even number, so it's something.
Yeah, it's still kind of strange because usually you want those, like, you want specific things in your accessory slot, and usually they have LB damage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, this TMR, other than for Dai himself because of the flat stats, it's not anything super special.
Yeah. And
then we have Mage Pop. This one, now from my memory, has something like after doing setup, I think he's got like a 2200 modifier finisher that is both locked to fire and ice at the same time. Other than that, I don't really know much about his kit. I don't think he has much else in his kit, does he, Jassy?
Honestly, no. Because I looked at their kits like before this on a hunch that we would get them, and I was like, what is even? Because I remember people talking about Pop on JP, and they're just like, this guy's a little,
so
a little disappointing.
So he is the kind of unit that they design sometimes that he is here just to carry his TMR and STMR. I feel like we'll look at his card briefly. This card is shared by Pop and Mam, so if you pull them, you'll get it. No, this card is kind of generic and whatever. It's 100 stats. It does have the decent HP on it, so that is nice. 50% stats, 25 LB, and flat stats for Dragon Quest only. But because of the relatively low, I mean, it's not low, but these days, like, at least me personally, I'm used to 115 and above, just baseline for stats. So 100 base does feel low.
Well, it's especially low when, like, you just look at Dai's card and it's like,
yeah,
kind of
clear winner.
Yeah.
So these are like the other guys on the banner. It's a two-handed rod though, so a two-handed rod, which is great if you didn't get the return Nicole, and like I mentioned during that video, the return Nicole's rod is element locked. This is not. This is a non-element two-handed rod. That's great. We know Magic variants is coming in June, so it'll be here very soon. It's got some killers on it, so decent STMR. And then the TMR. Now the TMR, this one I feel is the best of the batch. It's a double hand mage TMR. It's only 75%, which is again that weird number. But two of these can give you 150 plus something like Pause STMR and something like Aerith's Robe for the other 50%. And you're at capped true double hand on Magic, even on units that don't have it. And you're going to be wanting to force double hand on pretty much every mage if possible. So like Roberta, for example, would really want two of these in Clash of Wills in the future.
And we should never forget Angela. She is always there in our hearts.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Waiting for this variance boost.
Yeah, this rod would be amazing on Angela. Absolutely. Other than that, though, there's really not much to say about Pop. If you pull him, I mean, just to be honest here, you're probably not going to put him on actual teams. You're just going to be happy about the good TMR and STMR from this unit. That's just the way it is, the way it kind of is.
Yeah, one of those. I don't know if I'd call it like the Kyrie of the group, but if we want to go back to the Kingdom Hearts collab, definitely one of those situations.
Yeah. And then, Ma'am, I looked up her again. Now, she has a 330x modifier light locked limit burst. I think that's before Tyvis's Spirit, so 360 with Tyvis's Spirit. So, I mean, it's not bad. It's better than the average non-premium, but when you compare it to something like Knights of Grandshout, who has 450, it's pretty far behind. Other than that, I know nothing about her, so is there anything else that she does relevant, Jesse?
I think there were some people on JP server who liked using her, or were trying like their best to use her in places, and I think she's relevant during the Vision World. Okay. And then like after it, it's just kind of whatever. Like she's there.
I actually do remember now. Some people were telling me on in Discord earlier. Ma'am, she does have a whole, like 6 or 7 different racial 250% killer buffs for herself only. So she could be a combination in Dark Visions with Zahn to steal her 250 buffs and spread them to the entire party. That could potentially be worth it. It's something.
Yeah. Well, especially with the always potential for NV Zahn to just show up randomly and usher Global.
That would be so
usher
good.
Global into that new era of absolute broken meta.
That would be awesome. So her STMR is a two-handed fist. Our first two-handed fist, or our first relevant two-handed fist since the Igon arm like 3 years ago. The unfortunate news is the only ones that really care about that would be, well, besides herself, would be like Tifa and Carton, who are both pretty power crept at this point. And then her TMR is another one of those weird double hands. This one is 75% for physical, but only when using a hammer, gun, or fist. Now, by the way, I mentioned that Dai's was also locked to weapons. Pop's TMR, the magic version, is not weapon locked, so keep that in mind. So, okay. Not much, more about that. Anything else about her, Jassy?
Not too much. She's a light damage dealer post Knights of Grandshell, and also, like, Global doesn't really have issues with, like, getting units to deal light damage. That's just kind of we have enough support for that. But
Right.
I do want to note that like Tifa is really gonna love her STMR if you
Mhm.
feel like using Tifa, because I think base form TDH Tifa still can do a lot of damage.
Yep, she's definitely still pretty good. Absolutely. And it's got some killers on it as well. So yeah, so pretty good. Here's the raid. Before we get to that real quick, we're gonna jump to the other unit of the. I got my news all mixed up. The other unit of the event is Beast King Crocodile. Now he is a completely free unit. He will be mailed to us on day one, and then as you can see during login rewards, during the raid box, etc., you will get him to EX3 completely for free. So this guy, he comes with like a decent two-handed axe for tanks. It's like a defense scaling or a defense type two-handed axe. The unit himself has a 300x SLB. It has really terrible frames though, and I tried to use him in videos before, and if I wasn't using him with the dupe, I would just break the chain constantly. It wouldn't work for me, so that's why I don't love the unit. I wish his frames were proper frames, and maybe Global will fix that, and then I will use him sometimes. But how about you, Jassy? Did you use Crocodile much on JP?
I used him, but not for like any spicy strats. I used him because I was like, oh, really need someone to do something. Oh, someone used Croc for this fight in Vision World. All right, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, he can definitely do some decent. I mean, it's a 300 XLB. It does scale on defense, and people are used to that being like an automatic disqualification, because like units that are built first and foremost as a tank, and then with like damage on the side, like Warrior of Light or like Mont, they're like tank first, DPS second. Crocodile is DPS first, tank second. So he does have the full DPS kit to support his LB if you really wanted it to. The biggest problem for me is just the framing. If you macro it, if you just practice and get really good at manual timing, you can still make him work. He works great with a dupe if you want to bring him to like a trial or something. But I mean, just speaking frankly, for me, I probably won't bother because it's just too much work. It's too much work to make him work.
Yeah. But if you do need to hedge a little bit more damage, I mean, he's there. And as a tank goes, he has some pretty interesting applications. Now, we have Chow, so like but like, he has that Omni. I believe he has Omni Protect, if I'm reading right.
Yeah, I think he has Omni cover, but it's only for one turn with like a long cooldown. So
yeah.
And then,
but it's there if you need it.
Yeah, and that's his only cover. He cannot cover the party other than that one turn per, like, is it 5 or 6 turns? Yeah, it's basically like for the like I said, he's mostly a DPS unit that can step in for Omni cover if like your real tank dies. He can Omni cover for one turn while you recover, and you can like recover from that. So it's a cool little gimmick and all. He's a fun unit, completely free, so you get to enjoy him during the event. And the event itself, this week is a raid event. Like I said, the Vision World came with Part 2. So it's a raid event, not really much to say about that. The gear is okay. It's mostly for new players. There's one or two decent things in here. Like this, for like the Crocodile only armor, he gives himself 50% LB damage, which is nice. Get some killers, nothing really mind-blowing here. And this is kind of interesting. I'm not sure if this is because I specifically called this out last week about how they always hide the EX battle in the bottom of the event news. But this time, the EX battle gets its own personal news article, which I think is great. I think they should always do this for the EX battles.
Yeah, no, I always am like trying to like search for that whenever I'm like trying to find any information. I'm like, okay, what is this thing? What am I doing now?
But this is the EX battle versus Mist Vjarn, I guess. This is it's a hard to say. I don't really know much about the battle. I don't remember from JP. On JP, I use like the same like 4-man team for every EX battle these days. Just Knights of Grand Shout, Aerith, Jesse to break, and Biggs and Wedge to chain. That just clears every EX battle ever. So that's what I used here too. Very, very easy. I'll do the usual budget guides on Global when it comes out. But more importantly is the Vision card. This is the one I was talking about a few weeks ago during the Mont banner, where like a better Vision card for tanks, in my opinion, is coming. And this is the card. So the card has no passives at all. Keep that in mind. There's no passives. It is literally just raw stats. But it's 110 to every stat and 3,000 base HP. That is base HP. And that gets multiplied by everything. So that's 15,000 HP on someone capping their HP stat modifier. So what do you think about this card as a free card, Jesse?
It's so good. Oh my god, this card is so excellent. Especially because you have we have Celis, right? And this is like one of the single best cards you can put on Celis, because otherwise her stats are they get a little weak with time. But like you throw this on her and she can do a lot of stuff later on. It's super refreshing.
I use this. Since I got this card in JP, I have used this card on literally every single tank and every single trial I have done has used this card. It is amazing. I love it.
Like their HP goes from like sub 20k to like well into 30k, and it's so nice because before then you're like scrambling to try and fill in that HP requirement.
And then the missions, as you can see here, the missions are pretty simple. 10-turn time limit, like no continues. It's not a hard EX battle. I'll have some guides for that on Thursday. I actually don't remember what it does at all, so I'm going to have to go in there and figure it out first before I make the guide. And then the last bit of news is something I didn't expect. The Virtuous Vestment Bundle. So this is a bundle. I don't know if it's Lapis or Cash. It comes with some potions, VIP coins, some EX tickets, but what it really comes with is this. I actually don't know if this is like clothing or a robe. It's hard to tell. It doesn't tell you.
Looks like a robe, but then again, they made the Zodiac Spear a fist. So good luck, everyone.
That is so true. Yeah. So it seems like it's status immunity. Decently high stats, 1,550 HP, and 10% MP per turn. So, I mean, it's not a bad chest or anything. It's certainly nice. I wouldn't mind having it, but that is going to heavily depend on the price tag. If it's like 5,000 Lapis, I'm probably skipping this because, like, for example, the what was it called? The Paws of Virtue, the Courageous Paws, the little accessory. That provided a unique effect that nothing else could replace. So I bought that for 5K. This is not unique. This is nice. This is a good piece of gear, but it's not like it's not unique. So, what are your thoughts on it, Jesse?
If they gave it like super ribbon, like so it protect against it doesn't even have something. Yeah, it doesn't even have that. So, I'm kind of like, all right. And then I don't know who this is even supposed to be for. Like, it has the huge HP, it has the huge defense, it has no spirit. So I'm guessing, and it has good hybrid attack magic. So I'm guessing this is meant for a DPS unit. But like, it definitely isn't a robe. Then it would have to just be regular clothes. It's so in the future. This gets a little weird to me because, usually we have Clash of Wills gear, right? So if you're gonna wear clothes on a unit, it's gonna be that, or like on a mage, right? And then mages otherwise want to have a robe; they don't want to have just regular clothes. So we also get Titus and Roos's stuff, and that attack just blows us out of the water completely. So. That's my first thought is like, Titus just completely blows us out of the water.
Yeah, me too, pretty much. Like for mages you mentioned, like mages can use Shantoto's robe, which is 85 magic, and it does have the 10 HP. And then you can use Creel's hat, which gives you complete status immunity, and that's like a combo that I use anyway. So this isn't really doing it for mages. For physical units, there's so many options for status immunity. You've got like Edgar STMR, you've got Arden STMR, you've got Maria's STMR. Lilisette's STMR. There's so many options for status immunity. Like, again, this very well could be the best option for compressing that into one slot, but it's just not. It depends on the price. If this is like 500 Lapis, why not? I'll grab it. If it's 5,000, nah, not for me. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and I like the VIP coins because I'm always out of those.
Oh yeah, it's always helpful.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it for this week. You know, part 2 will very likely be either next week or later this month. Yeah, anything else you want to say before we end it, Jesse?
Division World's gonna be interesting. Interestingly, to me, I know more about part 2 than part 1 because that's like when I was like, oh, this is really cool. Aron is really cool. He's like Dark Rain but lightning, and his base form has hybrid damage. That's like super useful. It's other type damage, which I don't know. Does Global have like a way to manage other type damage for those? I mean, I guess that's for next week or next time, but
You mean the way to like boost the damage? The variance patch that fixes like variance for mages will also apply to fixed damage, so fixed attacks. So like
got it.
Evokers and that guy you're talking about, I know you're talking about him. The future unit, Cal, the ice guy that has fixed LB. Yeah, the variance patch will work on all those guys.
So yeah, that's definitely. I mean, we're in two-handed meta completely now, so that's going to be wild. So yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway, even if like you're not going to go total all in on these units, just really good vision cards, and then we have like good killers. Vision World's going to bring some really cool, like, you know how in the past we've gotten like bad materia for like units, like that are like locked on these units.
Oh yeah.
Well, this Vision World we get like good materia for these units, so it's like very refreshing. It's like, all right, you get some good mileage out of these guys.
So, just, out of curiosity, do you plan to pull for this on Global next week, Jesse?
Well, I wish. Cog, I went for Cog, and I'm out.
Completely drained.
Yeah, will I find a way to probably pull for these guys? I think a pull for Die, because I went for Baron and JP, so I probably want to try something different.
Nice.
We'll go for Die.
And I actually forgot to show the news for it. We do get a free weekly pull for these Dragon Quest units. So there is a chance.
There is always that chance.
All right. And thanks again for joining me this week, Jesse.
Yep, thanks for having me. This was a fun little surprise.
Yep. All right. So I will see you guys for this content on Thursday. Later.
Take care, everyone.